Are you doing everything right? Eating healthy, exercising, staying social, yet still feel like your memory isn't what it used to be? Maybe you find yourself double checking appointments, forgetting names, or struggling to focus like you used to. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And more importantly, there's hope rooted in science. Here's what's really going on inside your body as your brain ages. Every year after age 40, your brain loses a small percentage of its synapses, the connections that allow neurons to communicate with one another. That means memory retrieval slows, processing speed drops, and attention becomes more fragile. But this is not a fixed destination. It's a biologically modifiable process. And one of the most powerful levers you have, what you eat every single day. Today, I want to talk about one deceptively simple intervention that has huge implications for seniors. Eating the right foods daily to supercharge your brain at any age. This isn't about hype or trendy diets. This is about nutrition that helps your cells, your blood vessels, your metabolism, and your neurotransmitters function optimally. So your mind stays sharp, resilient, and energized. What the research shows is that certain nutrients can reduce inflammation in the brain, enhance neuronal communication, support vascular health, and even slow age-related cognitive decline. And while no single food is a magic bullet, specific daily dietary choices create a metabolic environment that helps your brain thrive, not just survive. In this talk, we'll go beyond vague advice like eat better and dive into how specific foods act on the physiology of aging. We'll explore how compounds like antioxidants, healthy fats, phytonutrients, and micronutrients interact with brain chemistry and structure. We'll look at how you can use food strategically, not just for energy, but to support memory, protect neurons, and boost cognition. Most importantly, we'll deliver actionable, practical protocols. Real, doable strategies you can adopt today. These include what to eat, how often, and how to combine foods for maximal brain benefit. We'll ground everything in root cause thinking, because to truly optimize your brain, you have to understand how food affects insulin, inflammation, blood flow, and neurotransmitter synthesis. Here's a preview of what you will walk away with. A foundational framework for brain-focused nutrition, daily food choices with proven cognitive impact, lifestyle habits that synergize with food for memory and focus, step-by-step guidance you can start implementing right now. This isn't just about preventing decline, it's about unlocking your brain's potential at any age. So if you're ready to take control of your diet with precision and purpose, and supercharge your brain, let's dive in. Your brain represents only about 2% of your body weight, yet it consumes over 20% of your daily energy. That alone should tell you something important. The brain is metabolically expensive. It needs a constant, high-quality fuel supply to function well. And here's the mistake most seniors make. They assume that if they're eating enough calories, the brain must be well fed. That assumption is wrong. Here's what's really going on inside your body. As we age, the brain becomes less efficient at using glucose, especially when insulin resistance creeps in, which it often does quietly over decades. Glucose still circulates in the blood, but neurons struggle to pull it in and convert it into energy. This creates a paradox. Plenty of sugar in the bloodstream, yet energy-starved brain cells. That's one reason brain fog, forgetfulness, and slowed thinking show up even in people who eat normally. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain as a high-performance hybrid engine. When it's young and flexible, it can run smoothly on different fuels. But with age and metabolic stress, the glucose fuel line gets clogged. If you don't provide an alternative fuel, the engine sputters. Not because it's broken, but because it's underfueled. What the research shows is that the aging brain thrives when it has access to healthy fats and ketone-ready nutrients. The brain is structurally made of fat, nearly 60% of its dry weight, and neurons depend on fat-derived compounds to maintain their membranes, signal properly, and resist oxidative stress. This is where daily food choices become powerful medicine. Foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, are essential. DHA isn't just a fat, it's a structural component of neuron membranes. Without enough of it, communication between brain cells becomes slower and less precise. Studies consistently show that higher DHA intake is associated with better memory, attention, and reduced cognitive decline in older adults. At the same time, the brain benefits enormously from monounsaturated fats, like those found in extra virgin olive oil and avocados. These fats improve insulin signaling in the brain, stabilize energy production, and reduce neuroinflammation. Here's the practical protocol. Include one high-quality fat source at every main meal. Prioritize fatty fish 2-3 times per week. Use extra virgin olive oil daily, not sparingly. Avoid ultra-processed, low-fat foods which deprive the brain of fuel. If this is already helping you see food differently, consider subscribing. I share science-driven strategies like this every day to help you age with clarity and confidence. The key point to remember, and I want to repeat this for clarity, memory loss is often an energy problem before it's a degeneration problem. Feed the brain correctly, and you change its trajectory. Now that you understand why the brain is often starving without us realizing it, let's move to the next critical insight, because fuel alone isn't enough if the brain is inflamed. One of the biggest myths about brain aging is that memory loss is simply wear and tear. In reality, inflammation is the accelerant. Aging may light the match, but chronic inflammation pours fuel on the fire. Here's what's really going on inside your body. As we get older, the immune system becomes more reactive and less precise, a process researchers call inflammaging. This low-grade chronic inflammation doesn't usually cause pain, so it flies under the radar. But in the brain, it quietly damages synapses, disrupts neurotransmitters, and interferes with memory formation. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain as a city with millions of electrical wires connecting buildings. Inflammation is like corrosion on those wires. At first, the lights just flicker, slower recall, trouble concentrating. Over time, the connections weaken, signals misfire, and entire neighborhoods go dark. The city still exists, but communication breaks down. What the research shows is that dietary inflammation is one of the strongest drivers of cognitive decline. Excess sugar, refined carbohydrates, industrial seed oils, and ultra-processed foods activate inflammatory pathways in the brain, particularly through cytokines and microglial cells, which are the brain's immune sentinels. When microglia stay activated for too long, they stop protecting neurons and start damaging them. Now here's the empowering part. Food can flip that inflammation switch off. Certain foods act like natural anti-inflammatory signals for the brain. Polyphenols, plant compounds found in berries, leafy greens, herbs, and spices, directly reduce oxidative stress and calm overactive immune responses in neural tissue. This isn't theoretical. These compounds cross the blood-brain barrier and influence signaling pathways linked to memory and learning. Extra virgin olive oil deserves special attention here. Its polyphenols, especially oleocanthal, function similarly to mild anti-inflammatory medications, but without the side effects. Daily olive oil consumption has been linked to slower cognitive decline and improved executive function in older adults. Another powerful daily addition is berries, especially blueberries. They enhance communication between neurons and protect regions of the brain involved in learning and memory. Even small, consistent servings have measurable benefits over time. Here's a simple daily anti-inflammatory brain protocol. Add 1 cup of colorful plants to at least 2 meals per day. Use olive oil as your primary fat. Aim for 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. Include berries 4-5 days per week. Reduce refined sugar and packaged snacks aggressively. And I want to repeat this point because it matters. The brain does not decline because it ages. It declines because it inflames. If this is making sense so far, take a moment to like the video. It helps this science reach more people who need it. Now, calming inflammation is essential, but it's only part of the equation. Even a well-fed, low-inflammation brain struggles if blood flow is compromised. So next, let's talk about circulation and why what you eat determines how much oxygen your brain actually receives. Even if your brain is well fueled and low in inflammation, it cannot perform if blood flow is compromised. And this is one of the most overlooked drivers of cognitive decline in seniors. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain depends on a dense network of blood vessels to deliver oxygen, glucose, fats, and micronutrients, and to remove waste products like carbon dioxide and metabolic toxins. With age, those vessels often become stiffer, narrower, and less responsive. Not suddenly, slowly, quietly, which means many people don't notice until focus, reaction time, and memory begin to slip. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your brain like a garden. Blood vessels are the irrigation system. You can have rich soil and healthy plants, but if the hoses are kinked or clogged, the garden dries out. Neurons behave the same way. Reduced blood flow means less oxygen, slower nutrient delivery, and impaired waste removal, all of which impair thinking. What the research shows is that vascular health and brain health are inseparable. In fact, many cases of age-related cognitive decline are now understood to be vascular in origin. The same processes that damage the heart, endothelial dysfunction, nitric oxide depletion, oxidative stress, damage the brain. Here's the key insight. What you eat directly affects the lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium. Certain foods stimulate the production of nitric oxide, a molecule that tells blood vessels to relax and widen. When nitric oxide is abundant, circulation improves, blood pressure stabilizes, and the brain receives more oxygen and nutrients. This is where daily foods become incredibly powerful. Leafy greens like spinach, arugula, and kale are rich in natural nitrates that convert into nitric oxide. Beets work similarly, and their effect on cerebral blood flow has been shown to improve attention and processing speed in older adults. Dark chocolate, real, minimally processed cocoa, contains flavonols that improve endothelial function and cerebral circulation. This isn't indulgence, it's physiology. Even something as simple as green tea enhances blood flow by reducing oxidative stress within blood vessels, making them more flexible and responsive. Here's a practical daily circulation supporting protocol. Include 1 nitrate-rich vegetable daily, leafy greens or beets. Drink green tea or matcha regularly. Add small amounts of high cocoa dark chocolate. Walk for 10-20 minutes after meals to enhance vascular response. And this is a great moment to pause and say, if this content is helping you understand your body differently, consider subscribing. I post clear, science-driven strategies like this every day to help you protect your brain and body naturally. I want to repeat this because it's critical. Your brain can only perform as well as its blood supply allows. Now we've talked about fuel, we've talked about inflammation, we've talked about blood flow, but there's one metabolic issue that ties all of this together, and it's quietly damaging brains around the world. Next, we need to talk about insulin and why many experts now call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Most people think of insulin as a blood sugar hormone, something that only matters for diabetes or weight gain. But here's what's really going on inside your body. Insulin is also a brain hormone, and when insulin signaling breaks down, the brain pays a heavy price. In fact, this is why many neuroscientists now refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. Let me explain this clearly. Insulin has 3 critical jobs in the brain. It helps neurons absorb glucose for energy. It supports memory formation and learning. It regulates neurotransmitters involved in focus and mood. When insulin works properly, brain cells stay energized and responsive. But with age, especially when diets are high in sugar and refined carbohydrates, brain cells become insulin resistant, just like muscle and liver cells do. Here's the problem. Glucose can be abundant in the blood, but if insulin signaling is impaired, neurons can't access it efficiently. This creates chronic energy stress inside the brain, which accelerates cognitive decline. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as the key that opens the door to a room full of fuel. Insulin resistance is like having the key, but the lock is rusty. You can jiggle it all you want, but the door doesn't open smoothly. Over time, the room goes dark. That's what happens to memory and focus. What the research shows is that chronically high insulin levels, driven by frequent snacking, sugar, and ultra processed foods, block the brain's ability to clear amyloid proteins, which are associated with neurodegeneration. This is one reason metabolic health is now considered foundational to brain longevity. Now, here's the empowering part. Insulin resistance is reversible, and food timing matters just as much as food choice. Certain daily foods help stabilize insulin and protect brain signaling. High fiber plants slow glucose absorption. Healthy fats reduce insulin spikes. Protein supports neurotransmitter production without overloading sugar pathways. Equally important is when you eat. Allowing time between meals, even a gentle overnight fasting window, lowers insulin levels and gives the brain access to alternative fuels like ketones, which neurons can use efficiently even when insulin signaling is impaired. Here's a simple brain protective insulin protocol. Build meals around protein, plus fiber, plus healthy fat. Avoid constant snacking. Aim for clear meal windows. Reduce sugar and refined grains dramatically. Finish eating at least 3 hours before bed. I want to repeat this because it's essential. Brain decline accelerates when insulin stays high. Clarity returns when insulin calms down. Now, once insulin is stabilized, something remarkable happens. The brain becomes more adaptable, more resilient, and more capable of forming new connections, even later in life. And that brings us to the next insight. Certain foods don't just protect the brain, they actually help it grow and rewire. For a long time, science believed the adult brain was fixed, that neurons could only decline, never grow. We now know that belief was wrong. The aging brain is not static, it is plastic. And certain daily foods act like fertilizer for that plasticity. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain is constantly remodeling itself through a process called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new synapses, strengthen existing connections, and adapt to new information. This process is driven by growth factors, especially one called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as a maintenance and growth signal for neurons. As we age, BDNF levels naturally decline, but diet and lifestyle strongly influence how steep that decline becomes. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain as a forest. Neurons are trees. Synapses are branches. BDNF is the rainfall that allows new growth. Without rain, the forest thins. With consistent rainfall, it regenerates, even after damage. What the research shows is that specific nutrients increase BDNF expression and synaptic resilience, even in older adults. One of the most powerful is omega-3 DHA, which we discussed earlier. But here's the deeper point. DHA doesn't just build brain structure. It increases the brain's sensitivity to BDNF, making neurons more responsive to growth signals. Another daily brain fertilizer is polyphenols, particularly those found in berries, cocoa, green tea, turmeric, and coffee. These compounds activate pathways involved in learning, memory, and mood. They reduce oxidative stress that would otherwise block plasticity. Choline is another underappreciated nutrient. It's required to make acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter essential for memory and attention. Eggs, wild-caught fish, and cruciferous vegetables provide choline in forms the brain can readily use. And then there's magnesium, which stabilizes synapses and supports learning. Many seniors are deficient, not because intake is low, but because absorption decreases with age and stress. Here's a simple daily neuroplasticity protocol. Include omega-3 rich foods or supplements daily. Eat berries or polyphenol-rich plants most days. Consume choline-rich foods several times per week. Support magnesium through food or supplementation. If this information is resonating, this is a great moment to subscribe. I share practical, research-backed strategies like this every day to help you strengthen your brain and body naturally. I want to emphasize this point, and I'll repeat it for clarity. Your brain can still grow if you give it the right signals. Now, we've talked about fuel, inflammation, blood flow, insulin, and neuroplasticity. There's one final insight that determines whether all of this actually works in real life. Because it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. One of the biggest mistakes people make with brain health is believing it requires perfection. Perfect diets, expensive supplements, complicated routines. In reality, the brain responds far more to consistency than intensity. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain is adaptive. It changes based on the signals it receives repeatedly, not occasionally. That means a small daily input, repeated over weeks, months, and years, reshapes brain chemistry, blood flow, inflammation, and structure far more than sporadic, healthy efforts. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your brain like a savings account. You don't build wealth by making one large deposit once a year. You build it by making small, regular deposits. Brain-supportive foods work the same way. Every day you eat them, you're depositing protection, energy, and resilience. Every day you don't, you're withdrawing. What the research consistently shows is that dietary patterns outperform individual nutrients. People who eat brain-supportive foods daily, even in modest amounts, have better cognitive outcomes than those who rely on supplements alone or follow plans inconsistently. This is why the title of this video matters so much. Eat this daily to supercharge your brain at any age. Daily doesn't mean complicated, it means repeatable. For example, olive oil every day, 1 serving of colorful plants daily, protein at each meal, healthy fats as a default, time between meals to calm insulin. These small habits create a metabolic environment where the brain can repair itself. Another overlooked factor is rhythm. The brain thrives on predictable cycles, eating, sleeping, moving, and resting at consistent times. Irregular eating disrupts insulin. Late night snacking disrupts sleep hormones. Poor sleep disrupts memory consolidation. So one of the most powerful brain foods is actually routine. Here's a simple consistency framework. Choose 3 brain-supportive foods you'll eat almost every day. Pair them with meals you already enjoy. Focus on progress, not perfection. Track how your focus, memory, and energy respond. And I want to repeat this key point one last time. The brain does not need extreme interventions. It needs reliable signals of safety, fuel, and nourishment. Now that you understand how daily food choices influence your brain from every angle, energy, inflammation, circulation, insulin, and plasticity, it's time to bring it all together. Let's close with a clear recap and a simple challenge you can start today. Let's bring everything together, because brain health is not mysterious and it is not out of your control. Today you learned that the aging brain doesn't decline simply because of time. It declines when it's underfueled, inflamed, poorly circulated, insulin-resistant, and deprived of growth signals. And the most encouraging truth is this: every one of those factors is influenced by what you eat daily. We started by understanding that the brain is an energy-hungry organ. When glucose metabolism becomes inefficient with age, healthy fats and ketone-ready nutrients become essential fuel. Feeding the brain properly changes how it performs. Then we addressed inflammation, the silent accelerator of cognitive decline. Chronic low-grade inflammation quietly damages synapses, but plant compounds, olive oil, and colorful foods act as natural anti-inflammatory signals inside the brain. We talked about blood flow because oxygen and nutrients can only reach the brain if blood vessels are flexible and responsive. Foods that support nitric oxide production directly improve cerebral circulation and mental clarity. We connected insulin resistance to memory loss and why stabilizing insulin through food choices and meal timing protects neurons and preserves cognition. We explored neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to grow, adapt, and rewire at any age. Nutrients like omega-3s, polyphenols, choline, and magnesium don't just protect the brain, they help it regenerate. And finally, we anchored everything in reality. Consistency beats complexity. Small daily choices compound into powerful protection over time. So here's your simple challenge. Pick one brain-supportive food and commit to eating it every day for the next 2 weeks. Just one. Olive oil, berries, leafy greens, fatty fish, eggs. Then pay attention. Notice your focus, your recall, your mental energy. Your body will give you feedback because brain health isn't about fear. It's about partnership with your biology. And I'll leave you with this thought. Your brain is listening to the signals you send it every day. Make those signals nourishing. Make them consistent, and your brain will respond at any age. If this video added value, take a moment to like it and subscribe. You'll be joining a community of people choosing clarity, longevity, and health naturally. I'll see you in the next one.